Hey everyone, welcome to Midweek with Church Planners. I'm Jason. I'm the pastor of Church in the Wild, and I'm really excited to be joined today by several different pastors. First of all, Rick Young from Watermark Church in Worthington, Ohio, Aaron Taylor from Living Hope Church in the Dublin-Powell area, and then Dean Fulks from LifePoint Church, which has 5 campuses, I think, but we're going to say from the Lewis Center area. Does that work?
Well, we actually have 4 campuses, but
4 campuses. Okay.
Maybe you're a prophet and you know something I don't. There we go.
It's my spiritual gift. So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you all for jumping on here. I'm really excited about this week's episode, and a huge thank you to Dean. I think I can speak for the other guys. You're a big hero of mine. I really appreciate the way you've been leading through this and before that. And so you're not supposed to laugh at that point, Dean.
You need better heroes. But I appreciate it.
I'm really thankful for you and just the way you have been leading before, and it's fun to watch you also lead through this. So if you're new to this format, we ask questions and we kind of discuss them, but this week we're all going to ask questions from Dean. So I'm going to pass it on to Aaron and let him begin with the question.
Yeah, Dean. So one thing that the 3 of us have been talking about really these past couple weeks, and I heard Carrie Newhoff say it yesterday, is that church as we know it is going to change as a result of this kind of pandemic that we're going through as a nation and as a world. And so one thing we were just curious about from your perspective, 15-year-old church, church planted in Columbus, several years ago. How do you see that all shaking out, for us as church planters? How is church going to change? And what are just some things that we need to be thinking through with our congregations as really these next several weeks transpire as we move out of this, hopefully, sooner than later?
Yeah, I feel like I've spent so much time, Aaron, thinking that through, and I think what I've landed on are a few ideas. One is right at the beginning of my full-time ministry life is when we ran into the 9/11 crisis. Wow. And what I remember from 9/11, I can walk into the spot, sitting in my living room, getting ready to walk out the door to go to work that Monday morning, and just flipping on the TV quickly. And, sitting there for hours, just dumbfounded about what was going on, is that there was a spiritual spike right after 9/11 that was incredibly significant. I feel like there are a lot of people that I run into today and even still talk to them who say, man, that was a spiritual moment for me. That's when I came to know Christ, or that's when I had this sense of repentance. And at the same time, it lasted for about 4 months.
Yeah.
So eventually, the response spiritually to that crisis, things weren't all that different in the long run. So it makes me wonder if this current crisis we're in, we're just all prisoners of the moment. Sure. And we think what we're going through is something that no one has ever gone through, and it's going to fundamentally change everything. And I was joking with a friend the other day, maybe this isn't an appropriate joke, but that everyone has a very close friend right now who's a biochemist who is consulting the governor and the president of the United States.
Exactly. Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So I just think the truth is, no one knows. I don't think anybody knows, but here's that leads me to this conclusion, that fundamentally what it means to be human means that we need personal connection.
Right.
God created us in his image. He is Father, Son, and Spirit. There's community among the Trinity. So we are built and wired for human connection.
Yeah.
So I don't see a church of the future that is solely online. I don't see a church in the future, because of this crisis anyway,
Sure.
that is fragmented or deconstructed. As a matter of fact, I feel like while it may not be immediate just because of the fear and anxiety that's out there, I'm not sure everybody's going to rush back to congregating because of the pandemic nature of what we're going through. That people are they're a little scared.
Sure.
But I think eventually people are going to get back together.
Yeah.
Really do.
Yeah. So just a quick follow-up, and we don't have to take much time on this one. Do you feel like this whole idea of, quote, digital church that we've all had to pivot to is here to stay? Or do you see that as just a temporary kind of addition to what we do? Because a lot of us have had to pivot really over these past few weeks into an unknown territory. So I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that, and then I'll let the other guys kind of take over.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely going to be a heightened awareness of having a digital aspect to what you do in church.
Sure.
I also think that if the crisis is short-lived, and by short-lived I mean less than 4 months.
Right.
I don't know that the majority of churches are going to become solely reliant upon a digital medium for weekend services. Now, I will say that one of the things that I've been pleasantly surprised by, at least for our church, is that I think we are serving to a greater degree than we have ever served.
Yeah.
And I absolutely I love that. I'm so appreciative of our folks, and
Sure.
and really that, we're using a digital footprint to help bring that to bear, to mobilize people so that we're not the bottleneck, right? The church isn't the organizer and the bottleneck. We're just trying to get people together with ministries and life groups together with ministries and free them up to serve. And so I can see a digital platform. I've got a friend who leads a church in South Carolina, and about a year ago, he was talking to me about putting together kind of a larger serving platform. So they came into this thing prepared.
Wow.
They were ready, unwittingly, of course, but they were ready. So, like in their world, man, they've got people serving like crazy. And so I do think the digital aspect is here to stay. I don't know that digital reliance is here to stay.
Okay. Awesome. Appreciate that.
So, Dean, you talked a little bit about how your church is serving more than ever. And so I did have a question about that. We've been kind of discussing serving our communities as churches, particularly as church planners. I think we've run into, there's almost an overwhelming need, but there's also, for church planters, it's really hard to figure out ways to meet those needs in a sustainable, good, healthy way. We've run into everyone needs something, but they've all got it from other places. And so we're trying to be available. So maybe you could tell us some ways that you guys are serving your communities, and some things that you guys are doing that we might be able to learn from.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I think Aaron used the word pivot. And I think that one of the great things about church planting is that you pivot quickly. And as your church plant becomes more established, over time it becomes a little harder to do that. But I think where we have tried to fight that trend is that from the beginning, our vision has really been to do two things, to do weekend services and to try and make disciples through life groups. So for us, that has helped us a ton, because we look at our life group leaders like shepherds. And so in that vein, we have, each of our groups, we say to them, look, you choose a ministry to partner with, and you serve together once a term at minimum. So for us now, in the middle of this crisis, what that's done is it frees us up to some degree to help the needs that are more one-off, if I can say it that way. So we have folks in our church who are their livelihoods depended upon the live event industry. So early on, we had some folks who lost their jobs, lost their benefits. So whenever people, couples, families, individuals come to us and say, hey, I want to help somebody, we're able to connect them up individually.
Nice.
But the secondary layer there is when it comes to helping a ministry, we have life groups, right, that are partnered up with ministries to some extent. It's not 100%, right? It's not perfect. It's certainly, I don't want to paint that picture. But most of our groups have a partner. And so right now they're saying to their ministry partner, hey, what do you need? And then the other side of the coin is for our groups that don't have a partner, this was a great opportunity to say to them, hey, here's some opportunities to serve together as a group, with the idea being, right, that you serve together as a group once a term, twice a term, so that serving becomes part of your lifestyle. So that you don't have to have the group to serve this, so that you're paying attention to the needs of your neighbor, the needs of your coworkers, the needs that God brings across your path all the time. So you develop a lifestyle of serving. But, you know, history, just ministry experience, I guess, tells me that that's got to start somewhere. And so starting in groups certainly has been a way for us. So I guess short answer to your question is it's kind of tiered. So we're having people serve at the group level. Christy Lowe is our missions director. She's done a fantastic job of leading her team, Andrea on her team as well, of helping us stay organized at the group level. And then that really frees us up as pastors and shepherds from a staff perspective to handle the one-off kinds of individual needs as well. So that's kind of how we're doing. I know, again, not a perfect system, and there's a lot of ways to do it, but that's kind of how we're doing it.
Awesome.
No, I love that. I have been myself worried that the way we are currently doing it, it's on me to initiate the way that our church cares for people, which puts, I'm sure we can all agree right now, there's a lot of pressure right now to do a lot of other things, and to consistently, okay, how are we going to help this person, just adds to it. So I love that. I think that's really cool.
Good.
Could I ask you guys a question? So this is something that I've noticed in the past 10 days, really. So once we got about a month into the really the crisis and the restrictions, I'm getting a lot of phone calls and emails from people, not just folks inside of our church. I'm great with that. I always want to, but even outside of our church, who have like lots of good ideas, like of how we can serve and things we can do. And, and I mean that genuinely, like they're really good ideas. You just can't do all of them.
Right.
And part of what I hear you saying, Jason, is, man, when you're especially in a new planting context, listen, everything else is on your shoulders. So when someone, emails you and says, it's a great, I'm not going to speak to a specific idea, but there are great ideas out there. You just can't, can't do them all. Right.
Right.
Hey, Dean, go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say wholeheartedly that I think all of us probably agree with that. They're really good ideas, and we really want to help people. It's just not doable at times because there's so much.
Yeah. So, hey, first of all, I want to say, Dean, thanks for being with us. I know Jason said he's your hero. It's, to me, my life is Jesus and Johnny Hunt and then Dean right there. Anyways, but then Arnold Schwarzenegger right after you. So, but hey, when you guys, and I also want to say the reason I smiled when you said pivot, now this is aging me, but it takes me back to Friends when Ross was like, pivot. Anyways, so that's the way my mind works. So, but hey, seriously, thanks for being with us. But here's a question, Dean, that because you're connected with so many churches across Columbus here. what are some ways that you're seeing other churches, you know, not only serving, but practicing how they're sharing the gospel right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I know we all would say, man, a lot of it's online and stuff like that, but what are some things that stand out to you that other churches are doing that's saying, hey, man, they're doing a good job in this of sharing the gospel? I don't know if that would come to your mind or if you got someone, you know, in mind right now.
Yeah. So I feel like serving is a primary opportunity for that. I know, well, Aaron does a super job, man, at their church of working with the local furniture company. It's more the ministry, right? The bridge, of delivering furniture to people and taking the opportunities when you deliver the furniture, for example, to share the gospel. My small group, you know, we made 250 food bags and brought them together and delivered them to the inner city to folks. And we're partnered up with Reggie Hayes down there, United Faith International. And so they're doing a great job of meeting needs and sharing the gospel. And then Rick, as you said, you know, from your online services, one of my concerns there is that, you know, on Sunday morning, so our live service, quote unquote live service, right, is pre-recorded during the week because our live stream platform, it just is not reliable, right? So
or because your teaching pastor walks out in the middle of worship, right? Not that I have any experience with that or anything.
I got to tell you how encouraged I was to see that, Aaron. So
I loved it.
I know that you maybe did that. If I understood Joe's explanation, you walked out at the wrong time because maybe you weren't as attentive as you should be in production meeting, as none of us are.
Hey, I don't know.
However, when we're so blessed, like John Myers is our worship pastor, and he's been with us for so many years.
Yeah.
So John just has this tendency, right, sometimes to just get caught in the moment of worship, which is wonderful. We love it. However, that means that I'm trying to time it just right because it's a long walk from my seat up to the stage, and every now and then I'll be about 5 feet away, right? And John will just, let's do one more chorus, right? And then I'm caught. So my favorite story from our church, our eldest pastor on our staff is Jeff Huff, and Jeff had a 30-year career with Columbia Gas before going to Ashland Seminary and then joining our team. It just does an incredible job. So one Sunday, he was going up on stage after John was finishing, and John decides we're going to roll into one more chorus. So Jeff is walking right across the stage. John starts one more chorus, and Jeff just goes right on across the stage, just walks all the way across. It was incredible. It was awesome.
That's the best. That's great.
I loved, Aaron, though, Sunday when you came up, you caught yourself, and literally you pivot and you came back off, man.
Oh, yeah. Man, I was off to the side, just dying inside. My sound team's on the floor laughing. It was
That's
crazy.
funny.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt that.
No, so Dee, go ahead.
I'll just come around the corner there and say one of my concerns is, so on Sunday mornings now, you scroll through Facebook and it is like the Church of America owns Facebook. Like it's amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that digitally, we're probably sharing the gospel to a greater degree than we ever have. I guess one of my concerns there, though, is, so let's say people are out there saying yes to the gospel. How are we connecting them? How are we following up with them? What resource are we putting in their hands? And then for me, even, I don't know, this just the kindness of the Lord, probably 8 or 9 weeks ago, we were doing a series and we were trying to equip our folks to share the gospel. And so I put a blog post online that included just a simple way to start a gospel conversation and a simple way to, if someone wants to respond in faith, to kind of wrap that conversation up and just put that blog post up online on our website, just so I could point people towards it, just as kind of an equipping post to help folks share the gospel. And I wish I could say that, man, I had this great vision to do that, this great visionary experience, right? And, but I didn't. I really just applied it to that message. However, over the last 8 weeks, I have referred people to that over and over and over again, saying, hey, it's not the way, it's just a way.
Sure.
And so I'm hopeful that we as churches are doing things like that to think about how do we equip folks to give voice to the gospel message in the context of their own lives.
Yeah. Hey, Dean, and just a follow-up question to that. I know you and I were talking the other day just about, because, all three of us are in different phases of our churches. And of course, mine, Watermark, we started January 12th, met for a couple of weeks, and boom, COVID-19 happened. Okay. So in your opinion, churches are getting ready to start, or churches that had started and didn't meet very long, what would you encourage them to do as far as like when to kind of maybe relaunch, or what would be a good, I know we have to wait till we go back and all this other stuff, but what would be your advice to new church planters during this time as they're preparing for that,
Yeah, I had a couple of folks who've reached out to me who said, Dean, my plan was to launch a church at Easter. What should I do?
Yeah.
And in virtually every case, I've said, don't do it.
Yeah.
Now is not the time, in my opinion, to launch a church. And I've heard, some guys talking about where we're going to launch online, and maybe, I think that comes back to Aaron's original question is, what does the future, what does the future look like? But so back in the dark ages, whenever we launched LifePoint, there was a term that we used, and the term was you did what was called a soft launch, right? Before you did your actual launch.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'm encouraging planters to do along the way is, hey, if you just launched and, within a few months, I mean, most people are looking at COVID as starting in November. There's an increasing belief that maybe it was here earlier than what we thought it was here. So I think people are looking at the experience going back to the fall.
Sure.
So if you launched in the fall, one of the things I've encouraged church planters to consider is, hey, maybe just treat this like a soft launch, and the people who've come, cast vision to them as they're the core team for the launch that's coming up in the future, or you relaunch, whatever you want to, however you want to refer to it. And then try and, as best you can, leverage the launch you've had, turn that team into, hey, this is the team that's going to relaunch our church whenever we come out of this thing. And in that way, I think it could be pretty incredible. I think I tell people all the time, what we've learned about planting churches in Columbus is that the number one determining factor of the success or failure of a church plant is the spiritual, emotional health of the planter and his wife. That's number one. But that's not, that's pretty much anywhere. That's not groundbreaking news. However, the second thing is, because for us, 1A is the size and development of the core team. So I tell folks that you can get everything else wrong. You get those two things right, and you can't stop it. That church plant's almost unstoppable. You get everything else right, and you get those two things wrong, or one of those two things really wrong, and it doesn't matter what else you do, it doesn't seem to go. So I like the idea of going kind of soft launch, hard launch.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's encouraging, because I know there's other guys like me in that same boat. So thanks. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great word. So, and I just got one more question. You guys got some other questions too, but on a personal note, because I know, and a lot of people are dealing with this, but I know you've got a son who's a senior like mine. Okay. What are you guys doing, or have you thought about, hey, if they don't have, and I know this is probably but they don't have stuff for school or graduation, stuff like that. What are you thinking that you guys will do? And I know there's parents out there that are thinking, what do we do for that? So that's a little more of a personal note, but just helping our people to see, because a lot of them are in that boat right now of dealing with that,
Yeah, for sure. We had a conversation last week. Our family ministries team did that. Really, the idea was, how can we celebrate this milestone? Our family framework at LifePoint is built around 4 pillars, and one of those is milestones, and one of those milestones is graduation. And so how can we celebrate our seniors, both from college and from high school? How can we celebrate them in a way that is unique to capture this kind of hopefully what is spiritual momentum in their lives, building towards the next step? So things that we would normally try, ways that we would normally try to mark that moment in our church have obviously, probably just not going to happen. I mean, it's, we normally late April, we're going to have a day where we talk about our seniors. We're going to gather people around them. We put all of our seniors at tables in our lobby, let people come by, write them notes, encourage them, all those kinds of things. And that's not going to happen. So we're talking about, hey, we're not going to miss that moment. We may delay that moment until later, but we're not gonna miss them. I look at you just like you, Rick, my son, and if the trend continues, and I expect the trend, to continue, if the trend continues, there's just going to be more and more and more misses through the end of the school year. He's already missed out on mission trip senior year. They're talking about, hey, if we do a live graduation, when are we going to do the live graduation? I mean, things like that. So we're trying to think about, how can we capture the momentum to do some things to celebrate our seniors.
That's good. That's good. So you guys got other questions?
Yeah, I had just one more. We've been discussing ways to keep ourselves healthy throughout all of this. For sure, you've got so many different areas you could be pulled right now, that I think it could be easy to lose that health for you, the emotional, spiritual, mental health. So you were talking about how health is so important to a church planner. So what are some ways that you keep yourself healthy, keep your health up?
Yeah, I think I personally try and think about 3 phases, right? Spiritually, emotionally, physically. So what are the things that I can do spiritually? So, your own personal walk with the Lord is so important during this time. A quiet time this morning was Psalm 76. Man, super helpful psalm. The psalm writer there talks about how God has suites in Zion. He has a house in Salem. And the whole point is God is omnipresent. He's everywhere all the time. There's nowhere you can go that God's not. And just praying through that this morning to realize, in every room of government, at the state level, at the federal level, they cannot get away from God. God is not surprised. He's not worried. He is not concerned. And just, I think that is primary, critical, your own spiritual devotional life. I think giving attention to your marriage during this time, for a lot of us, shelter in place means, maybe once a week, your essential services, right? You're in the office and then you're home a lot more, which can be great for your marriage if you're taking good active steps. But if not, being with your spouse all day, every day can also present challenges. We're feeling that burn a little bit right now with some of the folks from our church are, reaching out to us saying, hey, listen, this is revealing that we need to do some work in our marriage. So it's a good time to do some work, right? It's a good time to get to it. A lot of counselors are taking people virtually. So it's a good opportunity. So I think maybe that's kind of rollover spiritual, emotional health, and then just physical health. And I think it is critical to get outside, breathe some fresh air, get in the sunshine, do some work. man, if you've been thinking about starting working out or something like that, one of our church members, he reached out to me right at the beginning of the crisis in March, and turned me on to this guy. He's a physical therapist online. He does just kind of body weight workout stuff. And so one of the fun parts of this crisis for me has been me, Angie, my daughters, my son, kind of in varied groups, right? It's not all 5 of us every day, but probably 4 or 5 days a week. We're doing these workouts together. Awesome. And they're really, really hard. And I can't, sorry that the guy's program's called Athlete X. Obviously I don't get anything from this. I don't know. The guy's name's Tony, right? I sound like it's an Italian family. This guy, Tony, gave me some workouts. So we doing them over the, no. Awesome. But they're great, man. They've been fun ways for us to connect and just try and stay as healthy as we can, especially with stress. I mean, you release all that cortisol right in your body. You got to burn that stress off somehow physically. So physically, emotionally, spiritually, just do everything you can do, to stay healthy during this time. I think it's critical.
That's good. That's good.
Aaron, did you have anything else or?
No, man, I've been lifting paint cans and toolboxes over my head to work out. So figuring it out.
I was going to say, I'm trying to figure out that angle so that I look like Aaron in the camera. I'm just, right there. From now on.
Yeah.
I got a fisheye lens on here. So
that's right. See, when we get together as a family, we work out we ate a pizza last night together. And so it was so good. And I felt so relieved.
Right.
So
those are hammer curls, right? Those are hammer curls.
That's
right.
That's I know great, man. I know you can't see it because it's in the background, but it's really big. Right. So, anyways,
well, we usually close in prayer. Dean, would you mind praying for us?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Father, thank you for the aspects that we're all learning about virtual fellowship and just being able to see each other's faces and be reminded, God, of the good work that you're doing in our city through established churches and through church plants. And God, I'm thankful for these 3 men and how you're using them to serve the city and call people to yourself. And I pray, God, that you'll continue to give us wisdom and even more broadly, God, for the church in Columbus. Thank you for the ways that I see and sense partnership among churches in ways that would have never happened outside of this kind of a crisis. And so, God, I'm grateful for that as well. I pray, God, that maybe one of the results of this time, maybe, God, you're going to use this to keep us partnered up and keep us serving together and keep us united as a body across the city. But Lord, we pray that more and more, especially as we head into Easter weekend, that there will be, Lord, many, many, many people who are joining us, hearing the gospel, following you, taking steps, repenting, being drawn back to you, God, in such a way that faith will grow, that out of the darkness, that belief will rise, and that you will be glorified. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. We appreciate you, man. Appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah.
And we love you. We love LifePoint, and we'll get through this together.
Yeah, much love to you guys as well. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a great day.